Sweet. Man, thanks heaps for doing this for us. It's awesome. First episode, and yeah, really excited. So this is awesome. We've got Trans-tasman weekend coming up this week, man. Are you pretty excited?
Yeah, absolutely, man. As I spoke before, on the weekend we got the opportunity to play the boys a couple of times, the Kiwis.
Yeah.
Excited to see where they're at. I've been on that side of it quite a few times, and you can tell, as I mentioned before, Lee and Rowdy's influence is really strong with the side. They look collectively quite close and playing with plenty of energy. It was a tough contest on Sunday.
Yeah.
And she's going to be massive this week, man.
Any sort of real changes you sort of saw in the makeup of the unit?
There's quite a few changes considering from Dubai in terms of player personnel. What's exciting is we've got a lot of young, fit, quick looking guys coming through the unit. And there's some strong batting, there's some really solid stuff up front, there's a bit of heat with the ball, so yeah, it does feel like there's been a big shift in terms of the makeup and what they're probably going to put out there, which is probably the exciting thing. That's the most exciting part and why I'm looking forward to sort of watching it, really.
Yeah, it's just really exciting. I've got the privilege of going down and I'm going to be part of their commentating team from Thursday, so it's going to be pretty exciting and I've done a bit of that before in 14 with the World Cup. It was sort of off the cuff there, but which you played in, and unfortunately got injured in that semi with your Arcleys. But yeah, it's a really cool experience to do that. So I'm quite excited about this week, and been preparing for it and doing a bit of study and stuff. It's going to be I've been watching some of the state champs and the national stuff over in Australia, and man, you're bringing over a real good unit.
Yeah, 100%.
Like in contrast, you sort of see Lee Kelly has selected a side where he's still trying to find out whether players are good enough to win a World Cup and beat the best. And I really like that. I think that's really cool. Australia have come here with a really, really strong unit and don't seem to be experimenting so much.
Well, no, it's not their MO, really. You do sort of see it in between World Cup years. There's 2 or 3 guys that they'll be testing out, and there's a couple that I see. So, young fella Jamie Dino I played with in South Australia. Good kid, played in Colts for a long while. Brings a real strong, a strength to a game. He bowls a heavy ball, he hits the ball hard. So it'll be really interesting to see how he goes. They give him Mark Rice, another Trundle, got to play with him in New South Wales. Unfortunately missed out last couple of years, but he's obviously playing quite well. He moved over to Western Australia. I think he captained that side. They did a really good job considering last few years at state champs they hadn't been that great. And then there's the guys that have always been there who are really strong. Got a lot of respect for some guys like Rob Fitzgerald. He's a fantastic player. He's the best line fielder ever seen. Got Floris at the leg. Another guy, young Ryan. I don't know why his name escapes me.
Luke Ryan.
Love Luke. I played him a couple of times, and he's got a real presence. You can feel it. You can feel him coming at you, whether it be with the bat or the ball. So there's some good stuff in this lineup, man. And while they've got a couple of new players in there, I'm pretty sure we know what we're going to expect from them. It's going to be some strong stuff.
Yeah, we've seen. I'd like to say that we've got closer and closer over the years, even from through before my generation, through my generation, into yours, now into this sort of new mix of players where we sort of feel like we're getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer. But in all reality, I see just watching, say, the fielding, for example, of the Aussie guys this year. They just do things just a step ahead, just different and really well drilled. I know a lot of these guys really do dedicate a lot of their lives to indoor cricket as opposed to us, where we try and dedicate as much as we can, but probably not as much, I think, if we're all honest behind it. But they just seem to be that's far ahead all the time. I don't think we're making as much ground as possibly what we're thinking. You reckon that's fair?
Well, 100%, man. I've got to play over at the state champs twice, so you get a feel for what's going on over there. And over there sort of forces you to step up, because if you have an off game, you're in trouble. All right, you're going to lose your spot, and the team's going to lose because they've got 8 guys across the board and 2 guys on the bench who are going to play at a really high level. The difference here, and maybe in other countries, is the fact you can get away with not being at your best from time to time because there's not that strength in numbers. There's not those 10 guys at that level. There's more like 7, maybe 8. and you can hide in a tough game. So you're going to get found out in Australia. I experienced that myself. Like first time I went over, I started playing really well. I came off a World Cup where I was playing really well. Come in, started really strong for New South Wales. Showed up on a Wednesday night against Western Australia, and they had Ty Hopes playing, another young fella named Hankin, and I just got torn a new one, and I just wasn't ready.
I think Ty's done that to everybody.
Yeah, 100%. Like it was cutting me in half, and I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't force my way out of it. It was a big learning experience to how do you get yourself out of trouble when you are in it. But you can get away with that over here from time to time, and I definitely have. And that's probably a big turning point in my career. I realised that you got to prepare and show up every single game if you want to be the best, and you got to give yourself that expectation. And maybe that's the difference where you just have to over there, and if you don't, you get found out and see you later. The next guy comes in, so it helps. It helps them keep it at a high level.
Do you remember your first experience in the black shirt?
Yeah, it was funny. I got to have a car ride with Gurner on the weekend, and we were talking about it. And it was over in Sri Lanka, and I was superstar. I should not have been picked for that team.
Is that in 04?
04, yeah. And we're playing Australia in the first game, and my name gets called up, and I'm batting with Billy Murray. So for those who don't know Billy's one of the best players of all time in New Zealand, and I looked up to him immensely. I've only seen him a couple of times. I mean, he was so good. At a provincials the year before, he averaged 10 more runs than the next best player, which was incredible. So I'm like, sweet, I get to play with Billy and bat with him. Now, he hadn't played for 3 months. Literally hadn't picked up a bat. Well, unfortunately, that day it did. Like, I was just going to lose. Like, sorry, Billy, to share this, but I think he went out about 4 or 5 times. He doesn't get out 4 or 5 times in a whole year, let alone one game. So, but the biggest thing I got from that was like, this is my idol, right? One of the best players I've ever seen, and he just gets torn apart by a team that was really, really good, and it was a fantastic tournament. I mean,
this was a Sri Lankan side.
No, that was this against Australia. Had a shot, yeah, but then Sri Lanka got through. I think they took us out in the semi. It might have been South Africa. Anyway, they put Australia under a huge amount of pressure in the final, one of the best finals ever. Aussie, I think, had to defend about 10 runs in the last 8 overs and did it to win. So shows the quality and the toughness that they play with to be in that position and to still be able to do the job in hostile environment away from home. Always been a very, very good side.
Billy's, I've told Billy this as well, which I'm really glad, but he's my number one New Zealand player of all time. I think he's the best that our country's produced over all 3 skills. Simon Dill's close, but I probably think Simon didn't play as much for New Zealand as others. So I think that Billy's been amazing. My first experience with him in 02, and he got a bat with Mark Colkin second, and they were just amazing. Soaked up a lot of pressure. Had Coriotto bowling at him. 150 clicks indoors wasn't nice, but they just the way they just soaked it up and trusted each other, had that swagger about it, that sort of don't care attitude. That's fine, to a level, and he's amazing player.
Incredible amount of confidence.
Huge amount.
I mean, he's just going to step up with the bat. You overpitch, you're in trouble. He's going to lean on it. He's going to do what he feels like on the day. And like I said, that provincials I've never seen batting lineup, and probably won't see batting like it again. To be that far ahead of the very next bat, pretty special, man. Yeah, man.
What about when you first started? Like, where did it all start indoor cricket? Where were you first introduced to it?
So I was actually away on an outdoor trip in Australia, and a guy named Anthony Timpson was in the side. You know Timmy? Yeah. Good cat. We bonded really quickly. It was his birthday the second day. And I was like, mate, well, it was a few days after my birthday. I was just get a box of beers. We're at the bus, and we're busing to the next venue in New South Wales. And he mentioned that he played indoor cricket for New Zealand. I was like, what's indoor cricket, mate? Never heard of it, right? Sounds like he's a fascinating player too. Like some of the stuff I saw him do. But anyway, he invited me around to a tournament that was starting at the beginning of winter. Played it instantly, fell in love with it. I think my skill set and almost my mentality as well suited the game. And he was incredible, actually. That very weekend, it was quite abusive back then. People didn't mind having a wee chat, right? Like,
Don't know what you're talking about.
like you're a prime suspect. Anyway, like Timo's facing and he's having a word to the bowler as he's coming in. He's still talking to him, and did not look at the ball. Played a cut shot to a short ball, still abusing the bowler. Like he was incredible. Downed up that perfectly. He just ran through and knew. So, and yeah, so and Mark Senior was running the tournament there, and he had words. Me ended up playing for them, and it was just brilliant. It was a wicked experience to start out, and I suppose that's where it started here down in Christchurch with Timo, and then with Mark as my coach. Yeah.
It wasn't like, what year did you venture up to Auckland? You was about 03, 04?
Oh, so no, my first time, like I went away to England World Cup and dislocated my knee in first game. It was gutted, so came back down to Christchurch after that, and I couldn't see a surgeon for I think it was 2 months down there. So I rang up Dave Nagle, who was our manager with New Zealand. He lived up here, and I said, mate, can I come up? I think I can get a surgeon. Sweet, came on up and never went home. Like, just enjoyed being up here. Came across the Saints Indoor Club, and who instantly become, almost like family. Some really good people. So yeah, from 2007, being with them, and still there now, and they're still some of my closest mates, without doubt.
Yeah. It's funny, like that whole era, sort of late 2000s, where Saints just ruled supreme, and it was, you've got the big banners up, and you seem to sort of highlight all of the achievements, and not just across Prems, but across the club, which I think is really, really, really special. And you look back on those teams, and you go, well, yeah, there were some really high quality players in there, but it wasn't about those individuals standing out and winning games week in, week out. I really felt to me like that whole unit just had that belief and trust, and really well led, and it almost made it an easier environment for those class players in that unit to shine and just do what they could to contribute. So it's an amazing period, man.
It was, it's the number one thing, right? Like culture, it's the number one thing, without doubt. I spoke about the one good thing that I got out of smoking. I smoked for many years. Was that Ross Gregory was a smoker, and when he was at a World Cup, I saw him, an Australian coach, won the most World Cups ever, just champion. Whenever I saw him sneaking out for one, I'd go with him and have a chat, and it was the biggest thing that he brought across. And then to me, he goes, it's the number one thing we do with the Australian side. It's like, we've got to be tight, we've got to stay as a unit, and if you step out of line, you're gone. That's just how it works. When you're really tight, you play as a unit, and it's very hard to stop. Like, individuals can make hay, but when you get 8 people really close, and that's what that Saints unit was like, and that's what I'm excited about the New Zealand team with Rowdy. Rowdy was our skipper, but we also had leadership throughout the group, some senior players who knew what it was about. We had guys like Ben Rose, who was brilliant for culture, like to bring everyone in, having a really good time. Some strong leaders like Casey Cox, Bryce Fellows. Those guys, if things weren't going your way, they'd stand up and go, hey, follow me, we know where we're going. So we're lucky with leadership, lucky with culture, and we're just good mates at the end of the day.
I'm not surprised on Ross's approach to that, though, given that interstate rivalry, because he had to mix the best of the best from different states that were, one week they'd be at each other's throats at a really high level, fighting for their patch, and then the next week they're selected an Australian side and having to be best mates, So it's probably a really important lesson there from him, that he's really had to gel those guys together and make the level. You put your foot out, you're gone, and that's it, and they don't.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. It reminds me of when I went to New South Wales. Both Danny McLaughlin, who was our captain at New South Wales, and Vinesh Bennett, both in the Australian team. Like, you'd think that they'd have a really good bond, that spent some time together, but man, did they clash. At the end of one of our games, we're pulling the two apart because they're going at each other, right?
Wow.
And that's us over here, we see the state of origin, right? That was happening on court to Australian players, but then Ross's ability to hone that, get them together and get them on the same page, it's pretty incredible. Probably the best thing potentially his best trait as a coach is to be able to do that.
Anything else you learned from Ross at all? You managed to get out of him? It's a bit of a closed book for us Kiwi boys a little bit.
Yeah, like a lot of time when I look back at the best coaches that I've had, they're not usually huge on the technical side of things, or they're not usually huge on, it's never a crazy technique, it's never an adjustment with the bat and those sorts of things. It's their ability to get the best out of people. And from what I've heard, I've spoken to a lot of Australians, and a lot of them are good friends, is that he made you feel comfortable, he made you feel like you could contribute, he got you to your best, to the standard you needed to be at, and then was able to hone that collectively. I mean, if there's anything you need to do as a coach, is that, and that number one. I don't think you're going to, nothing springs to mind in terms of this technical thing or this bowling change.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely not. It's more that feeling.
That's more a lower level
Yeah.
coaching technique, I guess, where you're working on people's abilities to actually execute in that. Definitely at that higher level, head coaching, you're talking about the team bonding, the how you operate together.
100%, man, because it's never like, sometimes it's a little tweak. Maybe you've just lost something. Maybe you're not, like as a bowler, maybe you're not standing quite as tall. At a batsman, maybe your back lifts out to the side a little bit, so you can't play the leg side shot very well at the moment. So we straighten that up. At that level, it's never really about that. It's about, hey, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you can perform at your very best right now when it matters most? It's never a technical thing. It's all up here. And he obviously had a gift at it, because how many times have they showed up, like Sri Lanka, where they needed to defend 10 runs in 8 overs? They did that. Or against us in Wellington, where they come out and they smash 140. I mean, his ability to get them where they need to be when it matters most is incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talk to us about the changes in the game. Like, you've had a fairly long career now, over sort of 20 years, pretty much, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. So, any changes you like in our game? You like the 8 ball over to 6 ball over change that we've gone through?
As a batsman, no, because I want to bat as many balls as I can. But I think collectively it makes the game far more exciting.
Right.
To be honest, I feel like when you're going from 8 to 6, the game can turn on a dime. Like 2 balls can change the whole momentum of the game and where it's going. You slacken off just a little bit, you're going to get found out. It brings bowling back into the game, because I always felt like top bowlers, you could negate them a little bit better, because you could take that extra dot, or you could respect that good ball, whereas now I need to look at scoring off that, so it brings a far more excitement to it. I think my son's 2 years, almost 3 now, he can almost sit there and watch a 6 ball game, so like that's good. Like in terms of time period, I think people's attention spans, it works better, probably work better for TV, so as a whole I think it is good. It makes tournaments far more exciting. It's not about like who's standing at the end of the week. We're still getting high quality cricket at the end of the weekend, because there's a little bit less stuff. So in general, I'm for it. Yeah.
I'm of two minds of it, and I think there's some things you brought up there that at the higher level of indoors, so say first class and international cricket, 6 ball overs is fine. I understand 6 ball overs at a tournament, where we need to fit in games and we want more people at tournaments, and there's only a certain amount of time and court space over a weekend or 3 days, and so you want most amount of people to be able to play and enjoy that and watch it. So 6 ball overs for me was a no-brainer there. In the lower level of cricket though, Super League, I often wonder whether the less cricket you play on court, the less chance you've got to become better under pressure. So if you look at our cult situation at the moment, like amazing amount of young boys and girls that have joined this year, especially in the Auckland scene, and it's amazing. It gives you goosebumps just watching it. For me, I was really excited to see how many had turned up at the beginning, and then you sort of look at it and you go, well, okay, it's 2 balls and over extra, but just that additional time you get to spend on court, how much more can you gain and learn and get better from? Because you add up all those little balls over a season, you become that much more better. And training times at a premium now to be able to get court space is just so hard within centres. So I sort of wonder whether those changes are maybe we've gone a little bit too far. I think, I don't know the whole ins and outs of it. My understanding is that we just did what Australia do. and that's the way it's going to be because we're going to follow what they do. And I sort of wonder whether we could have done that and thought that through a little bit better. But
when you I hadn't actually thought of it from a development point of view, and we were both lucky. Well, I especially was, as I was brought up playing 8-ball, and maybe those 2 extra balls made a big difference in my own personal development, coming from not much of an indoor background at all. So I hadn't actually thought about it from that, and it makes a huge amount of sense. Then you got to weigh up, I suppose, like if it's for young kids and their development, their parents happy enough, because that's going to add up to another half an hour for them to take their kid to the game. I mean, it's a fine line, right? I mean, we're parents, we probably look at sports and go, oh man, that's 3 hours out of my weekend now, not 2.
The kids do what parents will do what the kids want to do, right?
Yeah, right. You got to keep them happy, right?
You see these kids' faces. Like I saw the first 2, the Harbour girls, the under-22s girls. Now these girls have got 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds playing, and their first couple of games of the season, I think they'd won the first one by 5 and lost the second one by 3. They were hooked by the passion and excitement and the disappointment the week after, and they were just hooked. You know what it's like. And, I think parents will buy into that fairly quickly, and the parent support, especially just seeing them come down and watch their kids have a go and become something, can get better week by week. I mean, the improvement has just been through the roof. So it's I just think maybe we could look at that. I was maybe a bit hard to go back to 8-ball overs now, but I think that maybe we could have missed a trick there, especially for the younger crowd. And I still think that there are guys at that opens level who are trying to make premiers and or reserve level trying to make premier cricket and working their arse off at trainings and that, and thinking, shit, I just need more time on court. I need to play more. I need to play the better players more often, and I can't do it at tournaments, that 6-ball overs. Well, when can I do it? Short of playing maybe some in-house cricket.
To be honest, now, just listening to you now, you've converted me. It makes more sense, right? Absolutely. I love now as a player, and at the higher level at 6-ball. I think maybe I'm thinking more of an international thing. Maybe Australia were too far ahead, or the top 3 were a bit too far ahead, and it's brought it back down to the pack. So playing in the last World Cup, all of a sudden UAE are dangerous for us, and India are dangerous.
Every team out. 100%. Brings everyone closer.
But when you talk about from a development point of view, what's going to be better for the game? I mean, how many more quality players are we going to get at international level if they're playing 2 balls less, if they're not training as much and things? So it's a fair call, man. Yeah,
definitely levels those teams out. Brings teams closer together, like you were saying before. It puts that pressure at every single delivery. Although I think that there's still that ability to soak up, those 1 or 2 bowlers in each team that you really just need to watch out for and identify as being the threat. It does allow you the opportunity to just soak those guys up, knowing that you do have the opportunities perhaps around you, around the rest of the bowlers at you, and it forces you almost to have more intent at the ball. I need to go at this guy. I need to hit this guy really hard if it's just 2-2-2. But I need to take 8-10 runs off this guy because we're just soaked up. They're better bowler, So.
Well, like you said, but then you've also got I've been able to face a Guy Coleman or a Darren Crook or a Bryce Fellows for 2 extra deliveries. So I'm going to get better because it's sharpening my skill set because I'm facing the best. So you're exactly right. If I only face, say my partner doesn't go good and I face 1 ball of that over, am I getting better? Am I learning something and improving my game? Whereas 8 balls is a good chance I'm going to face.
And it might not just be you soaking that up. You might be soaking it up so that your next partnership can have the weaker bowlers and go at them, but it still forces them to come out with a more positive intent than perhaps what they might have done in 8-ball overs where they might just guide the way through. It really does. It means that you do technically have to be better, and you have to have a more positive attitude, I think, towards hitting the ball. Any other changes? Were you around with the balls before the current balls they're using at the moment?
I heard you guys used to play with something that was a pivot, and I was about to throw someone's name under a bus, but I won't. And I heard you guys they were already quite hard, and some teams will put it in a fridge or a freezer before the game and then bring it out, and then you're bowling with a piece of concrete that swung late. And no, I wasn't around that time. The only change that I saw in terms of the ball was I believe there was something like an arsenic or something that keeps the shine on the ball longer, so the balls lasted longer, but it ended up becoming a dangerous substance, and they took that out, so the ball didn't swing as much.
Right.
Now maybe
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that was 3 or 4 years into myself playing since 2004, 2005, and maybe that force of change. I see so many more tweakers now. So many players who can bowl a very good offie, potentially some legs, some good topspin. Maybe that's forced that change a little bit because the ball is not as quick now and not as swinging as much for as long.
So those pivots used to be, I mean, if you can imagine, they were as hard as an outdoor cricket ball, just lighter.
Right, yeah.
So you didn't want to get hit in the 15th over, let alone the first.
Yeah.
They were hard, and if you got hit by one of them in the wrong place, you'd know about it. I think for me, again, I've got a theory on this one where I think it's levelled out the bowling, because you've got guys that maybe weren't so talented with the ball, that it did allow them to bring in tweakers and move it around. I felt that the Burleys probably do shape around a little bit more for most bowlers. I think that if you were a really good bowler with the pivot, you'd be able to shape that around as much as you wanted, but you needed to get the seam right and your release right. So actually, it put a little bit more emphasis on your technique when you bowled with a pivot. I think Burleys have really brought the less talented players, I want to word this PC, and with some respect, but it's brought those guys, allowed those guys with a few more skills, because it's allowed the slower deliveries to make a difference and pop around a little bit, and it's forced batters to have to really generate the speed onto the ball and create that power up into the nets, which isn't all that easy. So definitely a massive, like if I was to ask, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to talk to a few of the older players, but talk to them, what it was like, because you just didn't really see down-ups with that harder ball. You had a lot more flat cricket, so you brought the fielders into play. You saw a lot more lower scores, simply because outs, the fielders felt like they were in the game a lot more, and so the ball change definitely over time's definitely changed the way the game's been played. Probably for the better in the long run. I mean, I think that the way that guys are batting now would far outweigh the guys used to bat back in the old days.
Well, we've had more exposure to good batting, right? Like, so every game evolves. If there's a thing that's, I wouldn't look back and say too much of equipment's changed. I mean, the ball's changed a little bit, but at the end of the day, we've had, now they mention a video and streaming and all that sort of stuff, we're getting exposure to the very best, and guys are able to adapt and learn how to combat it. They said, I still think Kiwis, I think we still hit the ball a little too flat. When you watch the Australians and the difference that they've got, I mean, they hit the ball very late and give themselves a better opportunity in general, overall, to get down the other end. I think that's probably one of the bigger changes in terms of what I've seen in my time. And now I think our top players are very good at it. Our guys are getting better at hitting down-ups on both sides of the wicket, whereas when I was coming through, it generally was only on the one side. Still get the odd back net, guys hitting the ball out in front of them. So batting's the thing I geek out on most, so it's probably the thing I've noticed as such. And the other thing too, probably learn smarter with bowling plans. I don't know how, I mean, you were special. I mean, you could bowl, you could do what you want, you probably wanted to beat the bat, clean some guys out, put them under a huge amount of pressure. I think guys now, bowlers, are being smarter with where they put their field and where they're trying to have batsmen to hit it. We're better at working out a batsman bowling to the area that they don't like it. In New Zealand, it generally was just on the leg, right? This bowl on the leg, because we couldn't down up it very well on the leg, and that would put you in a good position. Now we've got a whole host of guys who are good on the leg side, so we've got to be smarter, we've got to work batters out more, we've got to change the type of delivery, how it's coming to them. So we're definitely evolving. We're definitely getting better in terms of that. Yeah,
I sort of feel like we're in a sort of a transition phase at the moment of the way bowling plans are going to manifest themselves. Like, for my club, Harbour, slightly different situation where our bowling makeup just allows us to do some slightly different things. It's definitely the strength of our unit, and especially in the back half of matches. We make it really hard for teams to score runs, and but certainly for slightly more balanced bowling units, how they go about really trying to be a little bit more variable but accurate. I think again, you know, you talk about the Aussie guys. They've got the best bowlers in the world, but they're extremely accurate on their game plan. They know exactly what they're doing. They can't move away from that. And then the byproduct of that is their fielders will know where the ball's going.
Yeah,
They've already worked out the batsman. They know what the batsman's going to try and do when the ball's going there. So the fielders are in a position where they can anticipate what's happening.
That is the difference to the next level. So if anyone wanting to move up to the grades, they understand you're not any less skillful than the guys at the top level for the most part. I mean, there's some freaks, but there's still a whole host of players who the reason they're better is their ability to anticipate. Right, so they read the game better, you're reading the bat better, you're going to show up where you need to be and on time. Because I go down to even to my club, there's a whole host of guys who throw the ball better than me, that hit the ball better, cleaner than me, that bowl so much with so much more heat or bowl later, but their ability to anticipate and read what needs to be done, that's where they're lacking and why they're not going to the top level. And so Australia, their anticipation is fantastic. If you watch how they only slightly manipulate the field, where they bring, at the moment, Flores at leg side, he knows when the off-cut is coming, he knows where it's probably going to be, and he shows up on time and delivers. It's probably the biggest thing anyone from a lower grade trying to move up needs to learn and needs to understand.
Yeah, definitely. What's the future for you, man? Like, you're obviously going to the World Cup 35s.
Yep.
Real exciting next month or so. You're training pretty hard for that.
Yeah, 100%. Like you, I'm a absolute 100% nuffy at this game. I asked Skoon on the weekend why he keeps playing. I mean, he's 44 now, and I'm 38. I'm getting to that point, but there's just a love for it and the camaraderie, the people, the whole community. I can't see myself ever leaving. It's sort of like, in a lot of ways, it's become my family. So I'm either going to continue playing, I'm going to continue coaching, help out in my club, whether it be help out at an international level or whatever it may be. I'll always be in it. The immediate future is the World Cup of 35, so I'm pretty pumped. Last year when I didn't play, I wasn't myself. And this year, getting back into it, getting the rhythm of hitting balls and stuff, I just feel better. And I just can't wait to get out there and compete. And talking about that community, I've met some amazing people overseas. Like, I can already think of some South Africans, Englishmen, some Australians who I've seen at every tournament for the last 20 years. That I can't
amazing
wait to,
guys too.
Yeah,
amazing.
just the people are all the same. I mean, for the most part, we're a bit of blue collar. We like to enjoy each other's company, have a beer, and we'll go hard at each other, and always ask the best of each other on the court. But just the people off the court are brilliant. So I feel like I've been pretty blessed in terms of people I've met. And I said two of my groomsmen are from the indoor community. The majority of the people at my wedding were from the indoor community. So I can't see myself really going too far from it.
Yeah. So I've got a good feeling about that side, man. Like, a majority of those guys are from the 16 World Cup in England, which I was a part of, and you know, we were close, but just didn't execute on that last day against Australia. But just got a really well coached unit with Paul Anderson and good leadership group in there, and I think. I don't want to take this away from Paul. He's almost got a slightly easier job because of the experience that he's got in that unit, much like the 16 unit as well, whereas he was just guiding the guys around as a unit rather than having to do too much individual work. It was just guys really understood their own game, they understood what they had to bring and what they had to execute, and it just probably makes it slightly easier at that 35s level.
And we've got a lot of respect for each other too. I think we've all competed against or with each other for a long period now, and like we were talking about Ross before and all the good teams you've been a part of, and myself, if we can get together, we'll do really well. We'll give ourselves the best chance to win anyway. But I have a question for you. So it's my first time playing at the Masters World Cup. I know it's been men's for a wee while. You've done that too. What's the difference? Is there much of a difference between Masters and World Cup? What have you seen?
Yeah, there is a difference. It's it's probably slightly slower. It's probably slightly more relaxed, but I don't want to take away from the intensity of it all. Everyone is there to play for their country. That's not lost.
Yeah.
I look back on my test career, what I call test career, the top level, and a lot of it's a blur. I can't remember a lot of it. You know, when I try and look back on my first test and that, I remember playing against England in '98. That was about it. The rest of it's pretty much a blur. I don't remember bowling or batting, but I do remember the intensity of it and just euphoric sort of level. You know, that you're trying to, as a human, you're trying to, you know, just control or be a part of and figure out how am I supposed to do this. You know. At the Masters level, it's not quite like that, but you're around a bunch of guys that know what they're doing. They know what they're doing really well, and I remember like my first ball, and I think everyone will remember this one from my team anyway. But first ball I faced for our team in the World Cup, and it was against England. Might have been Dunning, quick bowler, bowling at me. I've just pounded him in the top roof on the offside over the 2 or 3 line, and it's bounced straight over to the top of off stump because over the top of the stumps because the spring, it was just so springy. We didn't know how hard it was. It was not like trampolines, and I've been run out by about 5 metres. And so you go, I'm really confident, and I've just got out, and you're just like, holy hell, this is on. You know, like this is going to be real hard. It's
so that's not lost, because that's what gets me out of the bed and gets me to the gym or whatever I need to be doing, or hitting some extra balls, because that's the cool part about indoor, right? Like that competitive nature. And I spoke about it with some mates. I mean, is it going to be like that at Masters level? But I mean, brilliant. It sounds like it is. Like
it's those guys are there to play, man. The South Africans were probably mentally the hardest guys. Like we had some real tough games against England, but as the tournament progressed on, England, because they were at home in front of their crowd, like I remember the first night they had a couple of hundred guys in there just absolutely going for it and really letting you know they were there. And they weren't hostile about it, but they were just letting you know when you're stuffed up. And so the atmosphere is all there. England were really going hard out. Just lost. I think they might have beaten us in the first game. So they were on top of the moon. Went through, and just as they went, they'd just blown themselves out. So by the time they came to their quarter final, they just got through on that, and then played us in the semi, and we did them over, and they were just done. They were spent. They weren't playing half the level they were playing at the beginning of the week. In tournaments, we all know you want to be trending upwards and possibly not playing your best cricket at the beginning, and waiting and really getting better and better as you work through the week, getting used to the conditions because they're a little bit foreign and different. So I think that England in a way probably hadn't done themselves a favour. Really, really good players, really strong, but probably energy-wise had done themselves out. South Africa they got some real talent there. There's some really good players, and I think some of the usual suspects will be against you guys again.
And they're going to be at home. They'll be tough. They'll grow an extra leg, and they'll be feeling more comfortable. So what I remember about playing from Africa is just the ball just coming down at you heavy. So
they've got good pace bowlers.
I'm really looking forward to that challenge. I mean, it's gonna. I remember facing them in Wellington. It just comes at you. It was a little bit tougher. Australia's slightly different, but this is it's at you. It's like they're throwing a punch, right? Like, can't wait for that. Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm glad you're looking forward to it. We've got a host of things to talk about, I guess. We're not going to pull it all out in this episode, man, but we'll probably wrap this one up here, and looking forward to this Trans-tasman this week. It's going to be good fun, and I'm hopefully going to wrap up a few more episodes over the weekend, and I've got a couple of guys lined up, and it'd be great to be able to talk to you again soon, man. Let's do this.
Man.
All right, cool.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.